In some other alternate reality, Alex and I were given the Canadian national team job, and guess what? We have some preparation to do for our upcoming September friendlies. As reported by Joshua Cloak, Alex and I did a very good job going out there and setting up two good friendlies against Saudi Arabia and South Korea. So, Alex, our first job here today is to come up with our 23-man roster. It was a roster job in the other reality we never got. So let's take a look at the squad you and I put together, starting with the keepers. And the three keepers are relatively straightforward. We had Dane St. Clair, Jonathan Sirois, and Maxime Crepeau.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've been given a mandate where we've got to prepare for 2026. It's huge. You got the World Cup at home. You want to give, a chance to prepare for that. Of course, there's an eye on the Copa America qualifiers in the fall. You do want to get some young players some preparation time ahead of them. But I think, we wanted to build a lineup with balance, and that starts with the keepers. To start, we got Dane St. Clair. He had his shot this summer at the Gold Cup, did well with it. You want to, continue to reward him for that. Jonathan Sirois has to come in with the form he's been in for CF Montreal, just keeping clean sheet after clean sheet for them. And then lastly, we're going to include Maxime Crepeau back in. He's been making a slow return from his injury. Good to see him back and featuring in LAFC 2 games, making the bench for LAFC. You do need a veteran presence as well. So someone who was there that last cycle, but also someone with Crepeau, when healthy, can push for that 2026 job. So and this is a good mix of keepers that were there. You got two of your keepers from the last cycle, and then you got some fresh blood and Sirois pushing to make a very interesting trio.
Yeah, St. Clair's age and the ability to play with the ball at his feet is the reason he's leading it for us, but Sirois is definitely creeping up. It's a shame for Maxime Crepeau because he was always the keeper that looked to be the chosen one to take over from Borneo when he moved on. And it's a shame, too. He broke his leg to help LA, obviously, FC go on and win that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with him, but we're definitely including him for the time being. Now, our system is kind of a 3-5-2, but it can shift into a 4-3-3. So we're going to build it quickly with kind of the 4-3-3 Alex and I have in mind, because that's the goal that we want to get this team playing. So starting at right back, Alistair Johnson obviously is the guy, and then Richie Larea, again, a little veteran presence in there. Nothing wrong with that right back duo. Is there, Alex?
No, I think it's no nonsense, and there's been some names pushing, and there's names to keep an eye on over the next few years. But for now, I mean, Alistair Johnson, it's his spot, his starting spot. He's been playing well at Celtic. He's back from injury. He plays in a back four at Celtic, so he can be familiar with that. It can also shift into a back three, as we know he's comfortable. He can play inverted. He'll be perfect for this, role we have for him in this system. And then, of course, Richie Larea continues to be in very good form in MLS with his new club, the Vancouver Whitecaps. So until someone pushes, it's his job there, and he'll certainly not only be a backup to Johnson, but get good minutes, maybe even start some games.
Yeah, as you would expect, Johnson is definitely going to be a key player to this system switch that we have going on. But honestly, when Alex and I sat down and tried to come up with the center backs to bring, it was very, very difficult. There's some good names that are left off. I know that there's a lot of, Canada doesn't have great center back depth, but you would be a little bit surprised if you try to do this by yourself and kind of come up with a team that you would personally bring. But the four kind of center backs we determined for this 4-3-3 system is Kamal Miller, Derek Cornelius, the two lefties. I know it's a little unorthodox, but they're going to be the starting two. And behind them, we have Lucas McNaughton and Joel Waterman.
Yeah, and I mean, to start, we're also with this 4-3-3, we're leaving it in a way where you can also still play that 3-5-2. It is a system that Canada's familiar with, especially on the ball. The fact that it can kind of blend between the two is very useful, I'd say, tactically, as we mentioned, especially as you integrate towards playing a 4-3-3, because as we know in the modern game, no one really has one set formation anymore. But you do want a good base to build around. For us, that's that 4-3-3. That's why we have it as the formation. But we do like the 3-5-2 tendencies. So to start, we kind of have Cornelius on the right, a bit unorthodox, but he's been playing in the middle of a back three for Malmo. So when it shifts to that, he'll be very comfortable in that role. And then, of course, that leaves Kamal Miller out on the left, which is going to be huge, especially in possession. We've seen it from Miami. He does a lot of great things on the ball for them and playing out on that outside. He's also very comfortable with it from his time from Canada. And then from there, Waterman can also slot in, play the middle of a back three, also play on the outside right if need be, based on his time at Montreal. And you also add in just the four McNaughtons in. He can also play in a back four. He's comfortable with that. I'd love to see what a back four, for example, of McNaughton paired with Cornelius could look like. I think that could be a very interesting pair. So there's a lot of possibility there, and it's too bad we left out some interesting names like a Kyle Hebert, who we were very close to including, but we had to be very harsh with the 23. Of course, a guy like Steven Vittoria, if he finds his feet and gets playing again, you can always keep him in consideration. But ultimately, this is the four we went with.
Yeah, Zatora as well, but I mean Victoria, it's tough. These are the decisions we have to make. We're looking for that Copa America, we're looking for the World Cup, and we want an experienced line that can play together for years. And this could be it. If you're looking at that starting, if it's a back three or back four, you have Alistair Johnston, who's just in great form, or has been in great form ever since joining Celtic. I know he's returning from an injury, plays with confidence. Derek Cornelius has got a swagger about him ever since he went to Europe. He's that key player to this back three, especially when it comes to the fact that he can play in the middle. And Kamal Miller is playing with Messi right now. He's having the time of his life. It's a shame we had to leave McNaughton out of the starting 11, but there's some good depth there. I really like that. And the issue that Alex and I had to worry about a little bit is what to do with Alphonso Davies. And it's difficult. Alex, he's our star guy. He will always be the star player right now, but we're going to ask him to have to change his game a little bit in terms of what he does with the national team and really maybe focus into sliding into that left back position, because the two left backs that we have is Alphonso Davies leading the way and, of course, Adekubi. So as you can see, when it shifts to that back three, Davies has license to go forward. But right now he's playing in a back four for Bayern. He's thriving at the moment, getting assist after assist, and he's obviously getting that good connection with Harry Kane. So if we can kind of implement a little bit of that form and that style into this national team, I think it'll go a long way.
Yeah, the Davies one's interesting, but look, I mean, as the reports out there have mentioned, there's reportedly some friction between the idea of him not having a clear role at the World Cup, playing a bit all over. So look, that's the first order of business. We'll keep the role clear, keep it very similar to what works at Bayern. At Bayern, he's not, starved for offense. He's, already got 3 assists on the season. He's getting up and down the pitch. We kind of, envision something similar to that, where he's getting up the field a lot. But then also we want to use his defensive capabilities. And plus, as a bonus, Canada has some, interesting options up front. Davies playing a little deeper, perhaps frees up some interesting names on the wing, such as a key dual national who all of a sudden could potentially have a starting role if all goes right. So we'll get to that in a minute. But I think Davies at left back will make a lot of sense just in terms of that clarity. I think in the modern game, you can play fullback and still be very influential, because as we've seen, just him moving all over the park didn't really work for Canada, didn't really work for him. It has worked in spurts, but we just want that consistency. From there, you also have a very capable backup if need be in Sam Adekubi, who you'd be very comfortable starting. Maybe if you, for whatever reason, you want to push Davies back up to the wing, you have that option of putting Adekubi there. So you do have that flexibility, should something arise.
We want Davies to do what he does best. And if you haven't seen that, well, watch the Bayern games this season. It's starting with the ball, making a nice pass, using that pace, and he's such a good delivery as well. That's the reason Harry Kane is going to have fun playing with him. So, but you can't take away what he can do. That speed, be able to backtrack like that, he can do a little bit of everything, and I think this could be a good role for him. But now Alex told me before we even got started here, Josh, I'm not coming on board unless I play a 3-man midfield. Well, my man, you got your gift here. Where whether it's a 3-5-2, 4-3-3, there's a 3-man midfield in there. On the defensive side of things, you have Eustachio. Bit of concern. He's the only real number 6 that we have right now, and you could even argue he's not really a natural 6, even though he can play in the 6. The other two kind of 8s that we have going on is we have Chouanier, Kone, Ahmed, and of course Azorio for, again, a little experience to the side. So does only having 1 6 kind of worry you a little bit? And what do you think of this midfield?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's something where it is a big ask of Stefan Eustachio. I mean, it's one he can certainly fulfill. That is when he's fit. He's constantly one to munch minutes for Canada. It's something where it shows that long term why you want to hope for players to continue to develop. Of course, we're following Victor Laturi very closely. He was very close to making this. We just had to unfortunately sacrifice again for a harsh 23-man roster. You wanted some names up front. Laturi was someone who was very close to making it, but I think Eustachio can handle that. And then from there, there's some interesting partnership options. I mean, I think Ismail Kone likely starts, right? I think Eustachio and Kone are the locks. Kone continued to find his feet in the new season with Watford. And then there you have some interesting options to complete a trio. If you want a bit of just industry, you got Mathieu Chouanier, who can play everywhere, can run for hours, for days, and still give you something on the both sides of the ball. You have Ali Ahmed. We can see what he can do on the ball. He has this drive, this speed. He's also very good in possession. He rarely turns the ball over. He can dribble. So you got a bit more explosiveness on the attacking side with someone like Ahmed. And then with Osorio, as we know, he can be a link player. He can be a player who finds himself between the lines. So you can honestly, based on the opponent, based on how you feel, you could kind of experiment and find a trio that works well. But I think that those are some good options in the midfield to build around.
For all you CF Montreal fans out there, there was no way we weren't putting Choinière on this roster. Very excited for him, but again, looking back at that Gold Cup, Ahmed was the guy whose stock went the highest. There's so much I liked about him. I'd actually probably put him on the right-hand side of this midfield three because we saw some good things with what he did there. Maybe he finds some chemistry with Buchanan and Johnston. I really like the thought of that. But that is a very strong midfield. And as we go up to the front three, now again, when it's a 4-3-3, you're going to see a David, Larin, Buchanan starting front three. I know David is kind of pushed out wide a little bit, but as you know, Davies will definitely get up there. And then when it shifts to that 3-5-2, it'll be a striker duo of David and Larin with Buchanan as right wing back, Davies left wing back. But the front three is a lot of fun. And they're, I guess the backups around there is on the right wing, you have Schaffelberg. On the left wing, you have Corbiano and Miller. And through the middle, as another option, you have Ike Ugbo, who is in great form so far to start off the championship season.
Yeah, I mean, this was probably the hardest position, I think, for us to choose because there's such an interesting mix of options. But with the front three, it opens up a lot of possibilities. The David one, it's going to be interesting, but he started his Canada career on the wing. We've seen it last year for Lille as well. If you have someone leading the line, he always drops deep anyway. So that's something where he can help you combine with that trio. He can drift wide. He can cut in and let Davies occupy that space on the flank. I think it's the kind of free role that just suits David. So I can't see why it wouldn't work. And then Larin up front, it's an interesting one. His form hasn't been the greatest to start at Mallorca, but you're kind of backing him based on his past performances. The nice thing is you also have Ike Ugbo backing him up, scoring goals. So say Larin's just struggling, you can always turn to that option. Be like, all right, well, time to give Ike Ugbo a run. Otherwise, Tajon Buchanan, I mean, again, he's been in good goal scoring form for Bruges despite playing at right back. Here we've moved him higher up the field, back to his more natural wing position. So, that would likely suit him. And then you have some interesting options off the bench. I mean, Jacob Schaffelberg, he showed against the US at the Gold Cup. He can just be a game changer. Come on. He knows how to disrupt. He knows how to make things happen. Corbiano has been in great form in Switzerland. 1 goal, 3 assists to start the year as of recording. That's form that you'd back. You want to see him get that chance, especially Canada hasn't played with wingers. So, by getting this formation, it would be a chance for him to shine, potentially step up and take a starting winger spot. And then lastly, Liam Miller as well. I mean, he's gotten the chance to play on the wing for Basel this year, his more natural position. He obviously got the move to Preston North End, who are the top of the championship. Something where, we're not sure yet he'll slot in with Preston because you could play on the wing. You could play out at wing back for them based on their formation. But we saw that ability to play 1v1. We know that he can score goals from the outside of a wing. He's inverted. I think that partnership will also mesh well with an Alphonso Davies.
There's a ton of fun depth players here. I mean, like we said, Corbiano has been out of the national team for a while now. This is his opportunity. A fresh coach, a couple fresh coaches coming in here, giving him a chance is great to see. For Liam, though, honestly, I just think it's going to be a good opportunity for him to go back to a great league in the championship. And I mean, he's joining a club that right now is at the top of the table. It's what you want. You want that pressure week in, week out in a very grueling league to hopefully find a way to get promotion to the Premier League. And then Jacob Schaffelberg, I mean, you want that energy coming off the bench. Like, I like all these options. When it's late in the match, when push comes to shove, you have someone you can turn to. It's going to mean a lot going forward. But unfortunately, because those type of players made the roster, we had some bubble players that we had to leave off. Very difficult. So let's kind of go from the defensive side of things and moving up. We have Laturi, who was that other 6 that we were looking at. Just couldn't pull the trigger. There's some other positions we wanted to take a look at. Saliba as well, doing wonderful things with Montreal. Brim felt a little unfair considering he scored 2 goals against Feyenoord, but he's not really starting week in, week out right now. And like just the fact that he's competing with David, Larin, Ugbo, it's difficult. And same story for Russell Rose. So Alex, I guess out of those options, who do you feel the worst for, I guess?
Yeah, I think probably, Brim is one where he can feel hard done by. And it's a tough one because the only thing is you weigh up, is he a striker, is he a winger? And it seems to be more on the striker. So that would put him 4th behind, David, Larin, Ugbo in the depth chart. Ugbo's been scoring at the championship. That's a good level. Of course, the Eredivisie as well is a good level for Brim. And just those lack of starts kind of maybe hurts his favor a bit. Of course, we could push him out on the wing, and it's something we weighed heavily. It's just from what we know from Schaffelberg, we definitely want him on the bench. And then in terms of Corbiano and Miller, you get 2 out-and-out wingers. Because if we're going to play a 4-3-3, you do need some out-and-out wingers. So with Brim, it does feel incredibly harsh. I think in this case, we'd probably still bring him. Maybe we'd do a 25. It is friendlies. You can always bring a few extra bodies. I'd still bring him. But in this exercise for the actual final team, we whittled it down to 23. And unfortunately, you're always going to leave out good players. And also, I think that's the sort of depth that you have at Canada. I think that would be a good motivator for someone like Brim to go earn some more starts with Sparta Rotterdam, show that 2-goal performance he had against Feyenoord was, what he can do on a regular basis when given that opportunity. Otherwise, I mean, ditto with Russell Rowe, right? Because he's been scoring a good level in Columbus, just needs to continue to earn more starts and get more minutes. And then as for Saliba and Laturi, those are names you want pushing in that midfield. If a guy like Saliba's earning a spot, that's a good thing. That means he's pushing out some of those names we mentioned, like an Osorio, like a Chouanière, and then Laturi as well. We mentioned Canada needing number 6 options. He's certainly got a profile we're very interested in, and we would have loved to have him in the squad. Maybe if it's a 25, him and Brim are the two we're adding in, because Canada needs that option. I think if he continues to develop, he'll someone that we'll hear a lot of long term.
Definitely important to get some 6s in here. That is the glaring miss throughout this rosters right now. Is it's not the deepest in that 6th position. Although Eustáquio holding down the fort, I have no problems with. But finally, Alex, we have one kind of wish list, and we're going to turn to the dual nationals, and this could change everything. Just immediately looking at this 4-3-3, this is our pitch to him. Alex and I are taking money out of our own pocket. We're going down to England. We're talking with Luca Kolyosho, and we're showing him what we expect, and this is what we want to do. And maybe that 4-3-3, we push maybe Larin out. Maybe that's the sacrifice. David goes back to the striker. Kolyosho comes up at left wing. You have Buchanan at right wing, and then Davies, again, like we mentioned, can play at left back and kind of do the more natural role that he's been doing at Bayern. But it's crazy to think about. But Kolyosho just showing what he's done at his age in the Premier League, getting an assist against a massive club like Tottenham. He is the dream. I mean, it's maybe in the other reality, maybe not quite realistic at the moment, but in this one, Alex and I are doing everything possible to get Kolyosho on this roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we mentioned as well the winger depth. Well, I mean, of course, Buchanan he's a very good winger, as we know, but he also hasn't been playing there at club level. So that's that the importance of guys like Corbianu and Miller who've been playing there at the club level. But someone like Kolyosho, I mean, just look, if at his age to be regularly playing in the Premier League, now getting goal contributions. He also played last year in La Liga, scored in La Liga. Like, again, his pedigree is special. It's so unfortunate he wasn't able to see the field for Canada in any friendlies last year. But look, it's something where we can pitch and be like, because I'm looking at this team now, especially if we're playing a 4-3-3, he's someone who could slot right in as a starter. So that would be the pitch. Look, of course, we understand you got options. You got a lot of options. You can go to Italy. You can go to Nigeria. You can go to the U.S. For Canada's pitch, for Josh and Alex's pitch, it's, look, we have a starting spot for you. You can imagine the 4-3-3, Davies overlapping you on the left. You have Buchanan on the right. You have David leading the line. You got this exciting new midfield. Come be a starter, be a guy who can, the 2026 World Cup, he's still going to be in his early 20s. Could talk about him for the 2030 World Cup. That would be the pitch, come in and start. Because look, last year was a bit of a different scenario. There was, Canada wasn't really playing with wingers. They were focused on a 22 World Cup. It's a big ask because if you commit to Canada's squad, even if you don't play, you're in a World Cup squad, you're cap-tied. Now, okay, of course he would be cap-tied now due to him playing for Italy, and we'd have to file that switch. But our pitch would be, look, this is your team for the next few years, alongside, of course, those who are already there, and come make that spot your own.
Luca Kolyosho is that tier 1 dual national, and Alex and I are going to do everything possible to get him to this camp. But now it's time to turn to you guys in the comment section. How did Alex and I do building this team for these September windows? And more importantly, how do you think we will do against Saudi Arabia and South Korea? Let us know down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Drop a sub, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, friends.